This is Judy of Divina Cucina, and today I was inspired at the market when I was shopping. I had been asking everybody what should I make this week for my cooking demo, and fava beans, bruschetta, a pine nut cake, a whole bunch of ideas came up. And one of the things that I always try to teach in my cooking classes is that you should be inspired at the market and then come home and look for recipes. So what I always suggest is shop first and then find what's really beautiful. So if you find that there's a beautiful salmon, or the steak looks really good, or they've got baby lamb chops, shop and then come home and then start looking at your cookbooks, and then you can see what would be a great pairing. I mean, it's easy to fill in vegetables or something like that. But what I hate is when you go and you plan your whole menu and then the main thing like the salmon or the lamb chops aren't there. So when I went to the market today, I was originally thinking, somebody asked if we should do work with fava beans. And fava beans are spring and kind of very limited window, because we buy locally. We buy from the people at the farm that's down the road. So the fava beans were already getting a little big, and when they're big, we cook them instead of eat them raw. So when we eat them raw, we have them with pecorino cheese, this mozzarella cheese, and raw fava beans. You can just eat them, or make a cute little salad, and I can show you the link on my website for that. But then when they're big, a lot of people actually peel them and then cook them, and that's kind of a pain in the butt. Or you could cook them, and we do a dish that in Tuscany is called garmugia, and down in Rome is called vignerola, and it's sauteed vegetables of the season. So it's asparagus, zucchini, artichokes, fava beans, and peas, and it's really lovely. So I thought, okay, if the fava beans are kind of old and tough, I could make that. So I went down to the market, and as I was there, someone in front of me bought me the last peas that were in front of me, and then there were no fava beans. So I said, well, that's out. But then I found the first apricots, and that totally inspired me in 2 seconds. So if I get excited about something, that makes me happy. And one of my favorite simple recipes to make is, ciao Dana, hi everybody, Mary James. I don't have my glasses on, so I have to just see. One of my favorite recipes that is so easy to make is, traditionally, you split over these apricots, take out the pit, you crush, do you know the little Amaretto cookies? Amaretti? These are just kind of a little grocery store cookie that are the hard almond, bitter almond cookies, Amaretti. What that amaretto liqueur flavor is kind of all about. And so there's a simple recipe, and I have it on my website, so I can send you a link. You just pop these open, you crush the amaretto cookies, mix them with butter and bittersweet cocoa powder, and make a little mound where the pit had been, and you bake them. And it's a beautiful dessert. They're gorgeous. They glisten. The tartness of an apricot and the bitter of the chocolate and the cookies, it's perfect. It's really perfect together. So I had been dreaming about, the other thing I was dreaming about making the other day was I wanted to teach you how to make an Italian pie crust. The crostata is my favorite pie crust in the world. And, oh, guys, Steve's saying hi for a second. Hi there. Hi, Sarah. Oh, Michael Baston and Jill, fabulous. So one of the things that I thought I'd do then is to make these apricots inside of the Italian pie crust. So to me, an Italian pie crust is the best pie crust in the world, because it's somewhere between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie. So it's very forgiving, and it's really easy to make for people that are not good at making pie crusts, okay? So I'm going to, I brought my pasta board back up, and I put it here, so hopefully you can see me when I'm making this. And let me know if you can't. But it's so I think it's between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie. So we don't use like American recipes like 3 cups of this and 2 cups of that. We weigh everything. So please get a cheap scale, okay? Get a scale. And then I use, just a second. I think he just moved my bowl on me. I usually just weigh, and I use a ratio. Ciao, Nikki. I use a ratio of 3 to 1. I do 300 grams of flour, and it's the 00 flour, okay, our light flour. 200 grams of butter, and 100 grams of sugar, okay? That makes me more like a butter cookie, kind of melt in your mouth pie crust that's really, really good. And what's important is that the weight of the butter and the sugar together are equal to the amount of the flour. So if I did 150 of sugar and 150 of butter, I would have more like a sugar cookie and it'd be a little crunchier. Can you imagine the difference in the consistency between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie? So I like to make the butter cookie kind of version. So I'm going to do that now. So I have my scale, and I do it, you can do it in a bowl, or you could do it just on a table. So, here, I'll do it like this, so you can see. And when you have these big things, you can zero them out, okay? And then you, that's called making the tod. So we add 300 grams of flour, almost. You have to be really crazy. And then you hit the tar button again, and that makes it 0 again. Okay? I'm going to add 200 of butter. These packages are 250, so I'm just going to take off like, about a couple tablespoons here. And I leave my butter at room temperature. If I was going to do this in a food processor, I would leave the butter cold and cut it into cubes and let it just kind of like fall apart by itself. Okay? So now I want 200 of butter. Wait. Didn't go to 0. This is really nice and soft. Okay, just a little bit more. 189. Here, 200. Okay? 200 of butter. And then I just zero it out again. So you see how easy it is to cook when you're weighing. Ciao, Dina. Ciao. Go to 0. And 100 of sugar is about half a cup, okay? So 3, 2, 1. There. Okay. If you wanted to, you could add lemon zest or cinnamon or anything else you like. So I'm going to do this like an Italian mom and just do it on my cutting board so you can see how easy it is to do, okay? And what I do, you know how we have those little like strudel kind of crumble crust, like apple strudel or something, apple brown Betty, the crumbles. So I'm just breaking up the flour, the sugar, and the butter with my fingertips and crumbling it until it looks like a crumb crust, okay? So what this does is it really gets the butter and all the flour coating all the tiny little butter granules, and that's what makes it melt in your mouth. And then when it starts to really get smaller, you can actually rub it between your hands like this, and it's really beautiful. Now every single Italian mother of course has a different recipe. So some people will add baking powder to this and it rises a little more, which would be what I would consider like a bar cookie, okay? These ratios again are for like the 00 flour, which absorbs less butter than American flour would absorb more, so the ratios are changed a little. But I think if you take your American butter cookie or sugar cookie recipes, and I consider this kind of like making it sideways. Normally we would have creamed the butter and sugar and then added the eggs and then added the flour at the end, right, to make a cake or a pie crust or something, whatever you make butter cookies. That's the way we do it. And our butter is usually colder too, so you can't really do this by hand. So when I do this, it actually looks like grated Parmesan cheese. And I'll show you this in a second. I'm almost there. I find this very therapeutic, and I don't mind sitting here and working with my hands. The butter here too, it just smells so good. I always say, if you can buy the best ingredients you can afford, it really makes it taste better. And I know in America you can get that fabulous Irish butter now, Kerrygold. That's really, really good. Okay, what do you think about that? So almost all my big butter clumps are gone now. I just want to make sure they're all nice and small. And then this is just going to go together in a minute. This is actually the ratios. If you have the cookbook, it's almost like a double crust. So in the cookbook, there's the torta della nonna, which is grandmother's cake. And you first roll this out and in a disc, and then you cover it with a cold pastry cream, and you put another layer on top, so it's almost like you're making a giant ravioli, and then you bake it again. You bake the bottom first, and then you rebake it with the top on it, and you press almonds in it. That's grandmother's cake, or if you make it a chocolate pudding, you press hazelnuts, and that's grandfather's cake, so that's really nice. So I'm going to bring some of this over here to you, so you can see. Can you see that consistency of this now? It's just like grated Parmesan cheese, okay? So then, to make it pie crust from crumble, these eggs, I should weigh this for you too and let you know what this egg weighs. Because you can't just say like 2 eggs. These are like 60-gram eggs. So it takes a whole egg and a yolk. And then I keep the extra white just in case I might need it. Here. Sometimes when it's hot, it might need a little more liquid, but when you're making something like this, the egg yolks actually make a more tender crust, okay? So that's why I tend to just use a whole egg and a yolk for this. Let me just wash my hands a second. I was a pastry chef in a 5-star hotel for several years, and always had my hands in flour and doughs and batters, and it's just so messy. I was washing my hands all the time, so. Okay. This is the other thing I really love is a bench scraper. I think it helps to keep everything all together. So then, I'm just going to take my hand here and break up the egg yolk and the egg right in the middle. Like you would pasta, kind of the same idea. Okay, and then I'm just going to start to mix it together. And I'm just lightly trying not to get my hands really wet in this, but I'm using this bench scraper, and this goes together really quickly. Okay, it's already dough. Just got to make sure everything gets blended in evenly. And I've got the oven going already, so if it's a little warm, I'm working right above the oven, I'll add a little more flour to it. But you don't really want to change the proportions too much, okay? And this is already dough. Is that easy to do by hand? Huh? Hey Nick, you make desserts? Do you cook? Nick and I work together at the hotel, not in the kitchen though. So they were just talking, I just saw on Facebook they just did a film on James Beard. He used to stay at the hotel where we were all the time. It's kind of fun. Julia Child and James Beard and all these famous people. The owner of the hotel actually was the one who started those great chef culinary programs, so we were really lucky to be surrounded by those people all the time. So this to me is just a little bit soft still, but it's really a beautiful, beautiful soft crust, okay? Now often people will, in America, then go and refrigerate your dough like for hours or whatever to make it cold, to make it so that you can roll it out. Well, this one is isn't as, because it has the eggs, it's more elastic, so you don't need to do that. Oh, the world's best creme brulee. I love creme brulee. Oh, I didn't see the show. I met the girls that made it though when I was at my culinary conference, so I can't wait to see it. Okay, so this is already a beautiful dough. I just lightly dusted it to make it really not sticky. And it's a 2 crust. So I'm just going to take one part and put it off on the side here. Oops, I need my, why does it say the power's going out? Just a minute, let me go get my cords. Oh, you know why? Because my electricity went out, and so this probably wasn't recharging. Just a second. Andrea, mi puoi portare I fili bianchi dal computer con la cosa per il muro? Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Nick, that I had a power outage. That's why I wasn't going to be here, huh? Just a second, let me wash my hands again. Ce una cosa dentro la scarpetta lì. Cosa bianca, Andrea? Che lì dentro il computer, cosa bianca attaccata nella scarpetta, come si chiama? Scivolata. E il filo bianco attaccato al computer a destra. Grazie. Ho dimenticato che eravamo senza corrente. Sorry, you guys, it'll just take me a second here. I wasn't very good at explaining what I needed to hook back up again. So let me just see. Let me plug this in. Yeah, that's the right one. Okay. Just a second, I'll be right back. Grazie. Yeah, so when we came back from shopping today, we were without electricity. And I thought, oh, I can't do this then. Let me plug this in right here. Okay, is this going to work? Let me see. Okay, can you still see the cutting board? Yeah. Okay, so I just divide this in half. And what I like to do is make a ball and just have it be round, which makes it easier to roll it into something round, okay? Just going to dust my cutting board lightly. Okay. And then I have, this is probably one of my favorite things I brought with me from America, was a French tart pan. So when you bake it and you want to serve it, make it pretty, you can just pop it back out and then put this on your cutting tray, okay? And then what I have is I have this little tiny rolling pin. We get these at like all the little markets here. That is exactly the size that I need. Ciao, Martha. That I need for my crostata pan. So I can tell when I'm rolling this out when I get to the right size. And then I'll show you another trick. So I'm just going to roll this back and forth, straight up and down. And then you kind of give it what this is, a quarter turn, like from 12 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And I'm going to roll it again, and this helps keep it round. This is important like for flour tortillas and everything too, okay? I'm going to give it another quarter turn. Okay? And now I'm just going to roll it out where it was a little thicker on the corners. And if this breaks or anything, this dough is so forgiving, you can just put it back together. There, that's perfect. That was it to make the bottom. You can put it back together like Play-Doh, okay? So to get it from here into the pan, because it is kind of tender, I just roll it up on my rolling pin, okay? Slide the pan right there, and I don't need to grease this pan. It's like a little magic pan. And this probably also because it has so much butter in it. And then I unroll it right on top of the pan, okay? This is a little off center. I'm just going to do this and squish that around, see? And now I've got the perfect little pie. It's missing in some places, okay? So I go around the edge and I cut off where it's excess anywhere, okay? And then take some of this other pie pan, and I'm going to go around and build up the edge there, like a Tootsie Roll kind of Play-Doh thing. Just make a cord. This is not going to be a double crust pie. Oh, I came in like, what, 00 flour. It's Italian flour, and it's called 00. It's light in gluten. And at home, I think there's one called Caputo. They're bringing a lot of it now. And I think even Bob's Mill has Italian pastry flour. And it just makes something that just melts in your mouth, because our bread flour is kind of higher in gluten, so that's often why people has a tougher pie crust, and you work it too much. So this is really hard to make it tough. So it's kind of guaranteed a delicate, soft, buttery pie crust. I'm just pinching this now onto my edges to make sure I have a nice crust, the edge on the crust. And it's not going to fall apart. It's going to be really beautiful. Okay? So I'm just going to go around with my thumb and just push this all around the edges, okay? and then go down on the top to make sure it's flat so you don't have any little things sticking out. And this is also has like little crimped sides to the wall. So when you push it in, it makes a cute little design. So I'm going all the way around and pushing it down. And I'll show you in just a second. So the typical thing an Italian mom would do, can you see this here now? You see how it's crimped around the edges there? The typical thing a mom would do right now is she would just throw a jar of jam in here. Throw a jar of jam in and spread it out, and then with these leftover pieces, roll out ropes and do little crisscross. And that turns out really nicely, okay? So now what I'm going to do is what I would normally do for the, let me make the filling first. What I normally do for the, just the baked apricots by themselves is I crush these amaretto cookies just with my hands. They break apart really easily. I mean, you could put them in a bag and wrap them and break them with a rolling pin or something in a Ziploc bag. Italy doesn't have Ziploc bags. We just got them now that IKEA is here, or IKEA, however you say that. And I was just thinking all these things that I can't remember how to say, that I don't know how to say in English. Like when I moved here, we didn't have computers. There was no computers, there was no internet. There's no IKEA or IKEA, or however you say that. So now I'm getting old. So anyway, this bitter almond is also really nice done in peaches or in pears. I really like it. Okay? So we're going to do this. And then I'm going to take that little bit of the softened butter that's left over, and I'm going to take cocoa powder, bittersweet cocoa powder, and mix it all together and make this chocolate bitter almond butter pits on these apricots. And like I said, usually I would just bake these in and serve them on their own with a little ice cream or something. But I wanted to show you pie crust today, because pie crust to me, Italian pie crust, is the secret of life. So I've started making all my American pies this big instead of that big. So American pies are always so huge. Hi there. Yuck, okay. So I've got these crumbled amaretto cookies. I've got that little bit, like 2 tablespoons of the softened butter left over. I'm going to put that in there. And then I have bittersweet cocoa powder, and just a tablespoon or 2. Okay, like that. And I'm going to mix those all together. The butter's nice and soft. Put just a little spatula here, and then I'll use my hands. I just want to dig right into the cocoa powder right away. And this is also just a nice crumble topping, I think. It's really good. Okay. So now I'm just going to squeeze this. Have you seen my chocolate salami recipe that's really good on my website? You can just go at the top of the website too. There's just a recipe index, and that brings up like a whole bunch of recipes you can look at. And then usually when you look at a recipe online, it then shows you similar things. So it kind of helps you look. Or you could look by subjects like soups or pastas, by the name of the ingredient like vegetables or artichokes or something like that. Okay. So another thing we're thinking about doing for a recipe, yesterday my clients and I, they come all the time, every year, and we always try to do something special. So yesterday we had gone to the Central Market, and then for lunch we went to Cibrario restaurant. I'm going to wash my hands again. Okay. So Cibrario restaurant is one of my favorite restaurants in Florence. The menu really hasn't changed very much, like in 30 years, but it's really exquisite food. So you just break the apricots in half, and then where the pit would be, just take some of this chocolate and make a little pit. Okay? Like that. Easy, huh? And I'm just going to lay these in the pan. So if I was going to bake them, if I wanted to, I could really, do them big like this to get more contrast and flavor. and give everybody like one or two, and then do like ice cream on top. So, but I want these to kind of be smaller. And so it's a very simple recipe, but very, very yummy. So if you don't feel like making pie crust, you could just bake these by themselves, and that'll be fine. Very elegant dessert. I've also done it where I've just cut the apricots up and tossed them with this mixture, and then baked that in the pie crust. More of a French tart. That's also on my site. So I'm going to link to some of the different variations when I put this on YouTube. Unpeeled. You peeled your apricots? Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you could leave out the cocoa if you just wanted to. But this is bitter chocolate too. Trust me, the amaretto flavor is really there. It's really, really, the bitter almond is really good. But yeah, you can leave it out. I think it's for color, to make it look dark so it looks like a pit. So Martha used to live here. Hi, this reminds me of a medieval Spanish dish. Peaches, marzipan. Yeah, same idea. Yeah, it is. It's the same idea. I work a lot with marzipan. Marzipan originally was from the Arabs, and then the Spanish got it, and then they brought it down to Sicily. Yummy, really good. You know who's in Italy right now speaking is Can Albala. He just did a medieval historic cooking class in up in northern Italy in Valpolicella, and now he's going down to Umbria and giving a lecture down there, and I'm going to catch up with him when he's in Oxford in July. I'm going to go to Oxford. I love historical recipes. So they like to do a lot of things that are foods that are tricks to the eyes. So I think that's what it is that this looks like it still has the pit in it. So, but then you can eat it. So we're just going to fill the pan with these. I need to put my glasses on so I can see what you're saying. A Swedish friend. I want to go to that class so badly. I used to teach a class called Culture Through Cooking, and I taught about the food of Florence from the Etruscans through the Roman times, medieval times, Renaissance, the discovery of America, the introduction of New World foods, and then to the traditional classic foods of today. I think it's a fascinating way to study about food, and I can't wait to go to, this year Oxford is about landscape. So it's supposed to be, I think, about how the land affects the food. So it'll be really nice. And I think too, when you're looking at historical recipes, it's really fun how different countries have kind of like the same recipes. They just kind of naturally happen, like pasta. So you have I keep watching Ken on Facebook. We both got flour and water pastas. He tends to go more Oriental with his. I'm of course in Italy, so I'm just doing my Italian versions. But there's a lot of the same recipes that just showed up all over the world. They're great. Okay. So you kind of don't want the apricots to be too ripe, or they'll turn to jam. So you want them to be a little firm. So these were just the first apricots that I've seen in the market, so they're perfect right now. Do you ever use cornmeal, portion of flour, in the crust? Easier to read. I don't, but you could. That would give it a whole different texture and flavor. In Italy, we never really use corn. They have the polenta, which is a different grind, right? And I'm sure up north where they have the polenta, there's different cakes we have with polenta. There's a polenta amore, they call it. But I haven't used the corn. Is that to be gluten-free or just to give it a different texture? It would give it a different chewiness probably, right? More of a bite. I love cornbread. Makes me happy. What about if you made cornbread and then baked these into the cornbread? That'd be good. I love fruit baked into cakes. Hi Kay, how are you? Oh, just different texture. I'm sure you could put a little bit in. Try it. You try it and you let us know, Dan. You say, I do that, but I use this. I mean, I think what's beautiful about cooking is that we each do something a little bit different and get a different result. I went to my my girlfriend Joanne Weir. She's out of San Francisco, and she found out she was had celiacs, right? She couldn't have flour anymore. So she opened up a Mexican restaurant after she had done a book on tequila and gone to Mexico and just loved it and loved the fact that they used corn flour for so many things, the masa. And so she, at her Mexican restaurant, only has cornmeal, the corn tortillas, which is really nice. And then also there's a fried dough that they do for a dessert that's made out of the masa, and that's in the cornmeal. Oh my God, it's so good. Really, really good. So fried masa and served sweet was really nice. Yeah, Joanne's really darling. I didn't get to see her. She was just here, but she was only here for like a day between her courses. She did the Cinque Terre and somewhere outside of Lucca, and I was traveling too at the same time, so we missed each other, but I usually see her when she comes here. I used to organize her tours when she came here. Okay, I think I can get one more in. And look, that was perfect with my little chocolates, my little cocoa things. Now these are gonna get smaller, right? So I'll crumble these on top, the leftover crumbs. I don't want to waste anything. And then I also bought some sliced almonds to use. Just to give it a little more texture and flavor. I love almonds, and Amaretti are basically, do you know this? Amaretti are actually made from the pits of apricots or peaches that are actually with cyanide, and that's what gives the bitter flavor. So I bought some of these beautiful little sliced almonds that I thought might be nice just to give another color, and they'll get all golden on top, right? And give you a little more crunch. Yeah, I like almonds there. So Amaretti. Okay. So here we go. We're going to go into the oven now. And about 20 minutes or so. So do you want to sit and talk, or do you want me to show you the picture later? Does everybody have any questions? You can also, with this leftover dough, you could just put it in the freezer and save it. Rolls out really nicely. Do you guys want to just see the picture when it comes back online? Should I just stop talking, or should we talk about what I should make next? Anybody have anything to say? Or I'll just say goodbye and see you later online. I'll post the recipes, and then I'll post the finished pie online, okay? Oh, now I have chocolate on my glasses. Let's see. Okay, well, thanks for coming. Then I'll show you the, recap the dough. I'm going to put a link to the recipe, Martha, on the Facebook and the YouTube page. You mentioned jam earlier, thin layer under the apricots. I don't with this, but you could, because the apricots are kind of sweet anyway. But you could. Amaretto cookies. You could use, in America, you probably just use graham crackers or something, right? Or any cookie crumbs and cocoa and butter would be nice. It's like a little streusel topping. But what's really nice is the bitter almond contrast with the apricots. But it could be chopped nuts, maybe. That'd be nice. Some chopped walnuts with butter. Maybe cinnamon and sugar. You could make that up. Or marzipan. But if you don't like almond, then I would say maybe chopped walnuts would be really, really nice. It's kind of just really fun to make that little pit, okay? I think that's really nice. So then I'm going to go and I'm going to put this onto, I'll link this on our page, on the Dining with the Diva page too, and then on that page I'll put the links to the recipes, okay? And I'll put, I have the recipe with the apricots are just baked in the pan, and then there's also a recipe with the almonds just cut up, the apricots cut up and tossed with the crumble, and baked inside that same dough, but flat if you don't have a pan, and you fold the edges over, which is more the French style of a country fruit tart, which can be done with apples or pears or apricots. And what we used to do is when we cooked fruit tarts, fruit tends to give off liquid when it cooks, and that's what can make a soggy dough if you have like an American kind of crust. This crust doesn't really get soggy, which is really nice. But you can actually crumble, what we used to crumble was like cake. do cake or breadcrumbs with cinnamon and sugar on the bottom of the pie crust before you lay your fruit in there, and then that will soak up any of the juices, okay? So try that little trick. Ciao, you guys. Thanks so much. I'm glad we got through this. Bad electricity and all, okay? So I'll see you online. Leave me any notes. Ciao.